What if I told you the most powerful empire on earth collapsed overnight, not by war, not by rebellion, but by a series of events so precise it felt like reality itself was rewritten? And at the center of it all was a man who didn't even believe he was capable. This is the book of Exodus. And it starts in a place you wouldn't expect, Egypt. A land of power, wealth, and absolute control. But hidden beneath all that greatness was a silent crisis. An entire nation enslaved, the Israelites. For generations, they cried out for freedom and nothing changed, until something began to shift. Not in Egypt, but in a basket floating on a river. A child is born under a death sentence, hidden, protected, then released into the unknown. That child becomes Moses, raised in the house of the very king who ordered his people destroyed. Think about that. The deliverer growing up inside the system he would one day confront. But here's where the story takes a turn most people miss. Moses doesn't rise to power. He runs. After killing an Egyptian, he flees into the wilderness and disappears for years. No influence, no status, no purpose. Or so it seemed. Because in the middle of nowhere, something impossible happens. A bush catches fire, but it doesn't burn. And from that fire a voice calls his name, I am who I am. In that moment, everything changes. Moses is sent back to Egypt with one message, let my people go. Simple, direct, impossible, because Pharaoh doesn't just say no, he doubles down. Which raises a question, what happens when absolute power refuses to let go? This is where Exodus becomes something else entirely, because what follows is not negotiation. It's confrontation. The Nile turns to blood. Frogs invade every space. The land begins to collapse under pressure. Plague after plague, each one escalating, each one targeting the very foundation of Egypt. And still Pharaoh refuses. Why? Because letting them go means losing control. And control is the hardest thing to surrender. Then comes the moment everything has been building toward, a final warning, not symbolic, not partial, total. Every firstborn will die. But in the middle of judgment, a way out is given, a lamb, its blood placed on the door, and a promise, when I see the blood I will pass over you. That night Egypt breaks, not politically, not economically, personally. And just like that, after generations of slavery, freedom begins. But here's the twist most people don't expect. Leaving Egypt was the easy part. Because not long after, Pharaoh changes his mind, and suddenly freedom turns into a trap. Sea in front, army behind, no options, no escape. This is the moment where most stories would end. But Exodus is just getting started. Moses stands at the edge of the impossible and lifts his staff, and the sea splits, not symbolically, not metaphorically. Physically, a path opens where there was none, and the people walk through it. But the real impact of this moment isn't what you think. Because once they're on the other side, they're not celebrating for long. They're struggling, complaining, doubting, which exposes something deeper. You can leave slavery and still think like a slave? So the question shifts, not, can God take them out of Egypt? But, can He transform them? This is where the story slows down and gets uncomfortable. Hunger hits. They panic. God sends food from heaven. Thirst hits. Water comes from a rock. Provision is constant, but trust is not. Then comes Mount Sinai. The mountain shakes. Fire descends. And God doesn't just rescue them, He defines them. The Ten Commandments. Not just rules, identity, purpose, a new way to exist. Everything is aligning. Everything is building. Until suddenly it breaks. While Moses is on the mountain, the people lose patience. They build a golden calf. And in one moment, they trade the invisible God who saved them for something they can see and control. This is the lowest point in the entire story. And it raises the biggest question of all. Is this where it ends? Because by every standard, it should. But this is where Exodus reveals its deepest layer, not power. Not judgment, mercy. Moses stands between God and the people. And instead of destruction, something unexpected happens. God stays. He gives them a way to build a dwelling place. The tabernacle, not just a structure, a statement. That even after failure, His presence would remain. And that changes everything. Because Exodus is not just about escape. It's about transformation. not just leaving bondage, but becoming something new. So when you look at this story again, it's not just history. It's a pattern: slavery, deliverance, struggle, identity, failure, mercy, and presence. Which leads to one final question. If this is the pattern, where are you in it? Because Exodus isn't just something that happened, it's something that keeps happening. And the same God who made a way then is still making a way now.